Good evening, and welcome to another update of the 31 Days of Horror for 2013. You'll have to forgive me. I have a little bit of a cold, so I have the sniffles. To start things off, I'm going to start with a pickup. I saw this, I believe it was in a Loblaws, believe it or not, and I love the original movie. This is a sequel, and the DVD was only $5, so I picked it up, thinking, you know what, in all likelihood, I'll be able to add it to the 31 Days of Horror. And then I watched it, and I had already seen it, but I didn't own it. I checked to make sure I didn't own it. So, where did I see this? And I got to thinking, and the only thing I could come up with is I may have seen it at my mother's house on something like TMN, the movie network. Probably, you know, I came over to visit and she was out doing groceries or something, so I, turned on a movie while I waited, and that happened to be starting or coming on or whatever. So the movie I'm talking about is War Games: The Dead Code, sequel to War Games. This is very, very, very Canadian. Essentially takes place in Montreal. It's shot in Montreal. It's not terrible. I like the fact that they had a lot of reference to the first film, so it is actually a sequel, a continuation, if you will, of the story. Once you get past the unbelievable portions of the film, and the stuff that doesn't work, and just let it go, it's not bad. But let's get on to the update for the 31 Days of Horror. At last count, I had 3 movies. It is now the 10th of October. So let's see how many I have now. We will start things off with a triple header of basically killer creature features, if you will, from the Asylum for Sci-Fi Network. First one up is Two-Headed Shark, which stars Carmen Electra and Charlie O'Connell and Brooke Hogan, Hulk Hogan's wife or daughter, so I don't know, somebody related to Hulk Hogan. I can get past the bad CG, but this movie it was thrown together so quickly. Obviously they just wanted to get it done. They didn't care. They just wanted it in the bag, because there is so much like continuity type stuff going on. Like you'll hear they'll be on a boat and they'll be like, there's nobody around for like miles and like days away, it'll take them forever to get to us, and then you see a sailboat sailing behind them. Or it'll be like 2 boats are racing on the water, and then they cut to an overhead and the boats aren't actually racing. One's doing circles around the other one that's not even moving, or neither of the boats are moving. But, it's edited back and forth with them racing, and they're supposed to be going fast, and just bad stuff like that. I mean, you come to expect it from these bad movies, but this one's got a lot of them. Luckily, there is a lot of gore. There's a lot of blood as these sharks go to town on a lot of scantily clad people. And for those out there who are interested, yes, there is some nudity in that one. Next up is 2010 Moby Dick, which basically just a a modern telling of Moby Dick, and it's actually pretty solid. It's got Barry Bostwick as Mr. Captain Ahab, and yeah, it's it takes place on a modern submarine. It's got some crazy stuff going on. There's the whale out there. The whale's killing people. He's out for revenge. I mean, his character, I'm not going to lie, wasn't really done very well. His revenge story, yeah, whale took his legs, so he literally spent his entire life working his way up the ranks of the Navy to commandeer and build his own submarine so that he could go hunt this whale. Really, I think the idea he probably would have had better luck at, because there's no guarantee he would have been able to do this, would have been to just get proof that the whale existed and then let everybody else just hunt it. But whatever. That's neither here nor there. I actually enjoyed it, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that Moby Dick is a good story. Finally, Mega Shark versus Crocosaurus on this 3-pack here. And yeah, it's got Jaleel White, Mr. Urkel himself. It's also got Robert Picardo from Star Trek. And yeah, it's a creature feature. I'll pretty much leave it at that, because it's got some crazy stuff going on. Yeah, the reason that the logic in the film is off. I don't care who's in charge of what. There was definitely some off in that. The next film I saw was actually in theaters, and that would be Gravity. Those of you who haven't seen it may be thinking, I thought it was a sci-fi film. Yes, it is a sci-fi film, but the fact of the matter is, and I had this discussion with somebody who had seen it before I did, and he said, well, it's just Castaway in space. And I was thinking about it. I was like, I haven't seen it yet, but I'll let you know afterwards. And the thing with Castaway is, yes, it's a person on an island who's stranded, but it's not about the fear of being stranded on this island. Sure, there are some horrific moments in the film, but it's more about a person and surviving and how they deal with it. It's more dramatic. Whereas Gravity, from the get-go, is about fear. It is about, well, Sandra Bullock's character is essentially, she's the main character in this, and even though she's an astronaut, she's up there, and right from the get-go, she's queasy, she's uneasy, she doesn't like it, she's scared of her surroundings and of space and of what can go wrong. And while the film is about everything and that could go wrong, well, beyond that is essentially what happens. Like, anything you could think of is nothing compared to what actually happens to these people. And it is a terrifying movie if you can actually get yourself into their position, and the idea that you're in space, nobody can come help you. There is no rescue. If you are lost, you are lost and alone, and there's nothing out there, and you just wait until your air runs out, because eventually it will, and nobody will know where you are, where to find you. And if you're lucky, maybe some alien will come around and, beam you up or something, but that's not what Gravity's about. So, but yeah, that was and you know what, great movie. see it in 3D, if you can see it in IMAX 3D, it is a visual spectacle. The next movie up is called Storm Warning. Yeah, so Storm Warning. What can I say about Storm Warning? I would liken it to, say, an Australian Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And you know what? I'd like to say that it's a good movie, but it has some major flaws. I'd say the last 3/4 of the film look good, and it's at night, which is odd for a lower budget movie. Often it's the night scenes that are the worst shot, but in this case it was the day scenes, the first portion of the movie where it's setting up. You got some overcast, and you know what, part of this is due to weather. It sucks when you're making a movie, weather can kill you. But some of the shots are overcast, other shots they have sun on them, and unfortunately when you start editing them and putting them together, it starts to, you can see it and it doesn't look good, and they didn't do any real color correction or anything like that in post to try and make it all look the same. The other problem with the beginning is, I think these people are supposed to be made out as really yuppies who don't know anything about the country and who are just, for some reason, I don't know, it's not really explained why they go out in this boat and end up, yeah, I don't understand the motivation for the two victim characters for going out. So that whole beginning sequence, which is where you would generally do that explanation, it's I don't know, it's bonkers. It doesn't make much sense. But you know, they go out, they get stranded again, not very good, and then they meet up with the hillbillies or whatever you want to call them, and things go bad, and then something happens that just doesn't make sense again, and somehow these two yuppies who don't seem to know how to do anything, one's a lawyer, one's an artist, somehow manage to make one of the most elaborate trap contraptions I have ever seen, which results in like the coolest scene in the movie, but there's no way they knew how to do, like, I don't know how to do this, and I'm not one of them. I'm artistic, I'm smart, and I've gone out in the woods, and I have no idea how they pulled this off, man. You'd have to be an engineer to figure this stuff out. And then we got the title, Storm Warning. Like, I get that Storm Warning, and then they're out on a boat, and I'm figuring, okay, this is going to be some crazy, you know, thing at sea type thing, but no, it really has nothing to, I don't know. Storm Warning made no sense. Like I said, had they just called it Australian Chainsaw Massacre or something like that, I would have been more on board. Okay, the next title up, and forgive my Chinese, is the original title of this was Tun Men Se Mo, or the English title is The Rapist. Production, it's a Hong Kong film. Production values on this aren't bad. It looks pretty good. Acting's decent. The problem is it's essentially just a story that you'd probably see on network television these days. There's so many cop shows out there, and most of the film is just going through, trying to, you know, catch this rapist, and yeah, a lot of it is the progression through, you know, explaining the rapist, how they probably don't have a good family life. They have problems sexually. They they will continue going. They're addicted to it. They will get more and more violent, and using things like female officer to as bait, try and catch this guy. It's just the standard things you see going along. Now this is from 1994, but that's not that old. The one thing about this movie though is there is a lot of nudity in it. Like, I mean a lot. When they say the rapist, there are multiple rapes, and they show them. So yeah, there's I don't know. They seem to happen like every 10 to 20 minutes. So in that sense, that's the one thing that I would say takes it outside of the realm of the television show. But yeah, it's a lot of nudity. Okay, the final film for this week, and forgive my Chinese again, I believe is called Jimo, which on this DVD is called Devil's Express, but the actual English title is The Devil. That's what actually comes up on screen, and what it was released as in, I'm guessing, Hong Kong again. Now, this one is a weird film. It's from 1981, and it's part sort of like this family drama and part ghost story. I'm going to tell you the family drama portion of it right now, and that's essentially, there's a family who owns this hotel, and a guy comes to stay there, and he gets a room, and he falls for the owner's daughter. He eventually works out, and through some comedy and lighthearted moments with this little child bellhop, to get set up with this girl, and they fall in love and get married, and he takes over the family business, because that's what happens. But it turns out he's not the nice guy everybody thought he was. In fact, he is a very bad guy, and he was just trying to land the girl and get the money and take over the possessions and stuff of the family, and such. And on top of that, enter the ghost story portion. At the beginning of the film, there is a girl who gets killed, and she comes back as a ghost and starts bumping off the people who killed her. Guess who killed her? I'm not even going to worry about spoilers here, people. You'll probably never see this movie. But this gentleman caller was one of them. And so, interspersed between these really, quite long segments of family drama are these, maybe 5-minute, maybe less, depending on, if it's just a teaser or a full-blown attack, ghost moments, which even in 1981, I wouldn't call them very scary. They might have worked for people who aren't really into horror movies and scary movies and such. For them, and especially if you're in China, maybe it was scary for you. But what I did like about this is it had some good gore. Like, when she attacked, I guess what they were calling being possessed. She would possess them, and they would just, their skin would start to pus and boil, and they would basically start oozing. They get stuff coming out of their face and their skin and bugs and such. So there's a few moments of that in the film that are really, really good. I mean, it's obviously fake, but still quite gross, except there was one moment, I think in the end, where I have a feeling the actor actually had worms in his mouth, where he was spitting them out type thing, but it just looked like they were sort of crawling out, and it was just gross. So for that film, if you can get past this silly family drama and comedy moments, and stick with it for these ghost attacks, it's actually pretty good. Now, both of these films, The Rapist and The Devil, are only available on this disc. And I don't know that they'll ever... I don't even know if the owners of those movies know that this guy released them on this DVD. So if you are wanting to check these out, I don't know if you're going to be able to find them anywhere to download. You might, because it's on DVD. Somebody probably ripped it somewhere, but yeah, this is what you're looking for. I mean, the back... I love the cover art to these, too. There's several of these. This is Tales of Voodoo Volume 3. There's several of those DVDs out there that he's put out, and it's from Video Asia. Yeah. So, yeah, that was the watching of movies this week. If you've been keeping count, that means I'm up to 10 movies. And if you remember, I said it was the 10th today. So I am back on track. Took a little bit, but yeah, 31 Days of Horror is back on schedule. So, are you following along? Are you participating in 31 Days of Horror? Are you going as far as I am and having 31 horror movies you've never seen before? If you are, let me know. Post a comment down below. Let me know what you've seen. If you've seen any of the movies I've mentioned here, let me know what you thought about them. I wouldn't be surprised if a few of you had seen the sci-fi films put out by the Asylum. Because I have a feeling they were on the Sci-Fi Network. And then there's Gravity, which if you haven't seen it yet, go see it. It may very well be my best film of this year. There are a bunch of movies coming out in Oscar season that I didn't see yet, say TIFF, that hopefully I'll check out soon. But yes, I've got a lot of watching to go still. So, we'll see what next week has to offer. Got Thanksgiving coming up this weekend, and I'm working. So, we'll see. Time is limited, and what time I do have, I have to fill with horror movies. So, till next time, good evening.